This demo is going to go through creating a double exposure. This time we're going to flip an image and then we're going to blend it with a gradient map. So first thing you're going to do is open the mountain picture. Once you've done this, you are going to duplicate this layer. That's going to be Control J. So you'll have your copy of it. We're going to transform it. So you can do Control T for transform. That's going to allow us to rotate. You can also change size with that. Otherwise, you can go to Edit, Transform, and then we'll do Rotate, or you can do Free Transform, which I did. I clicked on Free Transform, and when I go to the corner, I can see the curved arrows, and I'm just going to take this and flip it around. Now, a little trick to get it to line up perfectly, like if you want it completely straight across, is to hold Shift, and as you rotate it, it should lock it in place to go across. All right, then we'll press Enter or double click or click the check mark, and then I'll put it, confirm that transformation. Now we're going to choose a blending mode. So if you were doing this, you would click on darken and you would arrow through to see which one works. This one would be really cool. However, one thing that we're going to do, we're going to go to the move tool and we're going to move this image up a little bit. So we're using like the rule of thirds, like kind of like it's in the sky. And then what would happen is we would have like this big line with this space in there, so it doesn't really connect the two pictures very well. So we want to choose something that's going to blend the two pictures pretty well overall. And then we can go back and like add high contrast and do things like that in order to actually get it to have that bold color like we just saw. All right, darker color looks really good overall. So you could see how you would go through and once again decide what would fit. Overlay looks really good as well. We would just want to do some adjustments on the bottom part to get it to match. Same with hard lights. So for this one, let's go with hard light. And then now we have this line right here. That doesn't really work together with these. So what we're going to do is, once again, we're going to add a mask to this. So click on your layer 0, copy your copy layer, add a mask. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to a gradient tool. The gradient tool is in your toolbar on the left side. It's different than the gradient that we used when we were doing like the gradient overlay. So there's like 3 different places that we can do gradients, and we're going to use a couple of them in here. So we're going to use the gradient tool, which is on the left side. And what this allows you to do is create your own gradient, and we're going to do it in our mask, and it's going to blend our layers. All right, so we want to make sure that we've got our black to white. If you don't see it, you can double click and go to basics and do white to black, black to white. I'll show you the difference in just a second. All right, so I actually switched from white to black, and how this works is when you click down and click and hold, it's going to create this line. Okay, so the first place you click is going to be the first color that shows up. In this case, it's white. And then when I let go, it's going to be black. And I'm actually going to show you this so you understand it on a blank layer. You do not need to do this next step. You're just going to watch. Okay, so I'm just going to do a blank layer here. Oh, hold on. All right. I'm going to do, this is what I want, to show you what it looks like. Okay, so when I come in with my black to white, so here I'm clicking and dragging, and it creates that gradient from one color to another. My first one was black, so it clicked and dragged there. If I click and drag and do a short little drag, you can see it's not going to extend it as far. So wherever I'm starting it is where it's going to go. And then the longer I extend it, the more gradual my change is going to be. You can even start, like for example, if you don't want so much black in here, you could start outside of your picture, and then you would have more of a softer transition in there. So that's just how it works, just so you understand that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to click on our mask. We want to make sure it goes from white to black. If it doesn't, then you're going to double click and you're going to go to basics and you're going to choose this. All right, so now what we want to happen is we want to have this to be a gradual change right here. So we know we want to see this part of the mountain, so we want that to be white. We want to see all of this. So we're going to start right below that. Then we're going to click and drag so we have kind of a gradual change. If you want this to go totally vertical, hold shift once again, and that's going to keep it in that spot. All right, then I let go, and there's a gradual change there. Now, one thing that might be happening is it might still be covering up the mountains a little bit. You can see some haziness. So we can even do it one more time, and it's just going to replace what's there and do a shorter one, and you can see the value comes out better. It's more of a gradual change that way. All right, we'll leave that like that. And then you could keep this color. For this one, we're gonna do a black and white, okay? Now, before we get with that, one thing I want you to notice with our blending modes is we also have an opacity for our layers. So if we make sure we're on our top layer, we could bring our opacity down and have it be a little more transparent, okay? And it would give a very different feel to the picture. So let's do hard light. Let's bring our opacity down to 76 or around there. So it's going to fade even more. And then we're going to clip on our top layer. This one we're going to change to black and white. I'm going to show you a different way to change it to black and white than we've done in the past. And to do that, we're going to go to our adjustments. We'll click gradient map. So you can see that we're using a gradient again. It's a different one though. And what it does when we click on it, it gives you the option to have some different values, just like our last one. Okay. And then when it places those values on top, it's going to blend them with the dark and light parts of your picture. Okay. So we'll just do black and white for this one. So we want it to go black to white. If it doesn't, you'll click reverse. This is kind of a cool effect, but not what we're going to do because we want to see the correct values. And then we'll go back and reanalyze our picture. So right here, maybe it makes sense since there's not as many values to bring that hardness back up to 100%. And I like that. We could also go back and say, maybe there's a different blending mode that would fit better. Darker color works really good. Yeah, I think once we start to like do that shift, because I'm also looking at the sky, like how does everything blend together? Hard light's pretty good overall. We could also do overlay, which blends with, let's do that. We're doing overlay. Okay, so overlay, because we get some of the sky coming through, which is really nice. And then we get kind of this faint look. We could add some more value to this. So let's click on, make sure we're clicked on our duplicated layer. Go to adjustments. Let's do a levels. We're going to do a clipping mask. So make sure it just applies to this one. So if you're in Photopea, you want to make sure you right click on the levels layer and do create clipping mask. I already have one, so it's going to release it. Create that so you get that down arrow. Let's double click on those levels again. We can bring that down just a little bit to bring out just a little more contrast in there. Okay, now one other thing we're going to do to both layers, so we'll click above so it doesn't add a clipping mask again, is we're going to add a matte effect. We learned about matte effect in one of our other projects, so we're going to see how it looks when we add it to this one. So matte effect works great when we use curves. That's where we're going to get that effect. On the upper right part where those two lines cross, we're going to click down once. And then we're going to go to the lower left, click down again. That just anchors those. And then we're going to go to all the way to the left, and we're going to drag that up. We're starting to see that effect come out. And then we're going to bring the blacks in between down just a little bit. All right, and we can go back and look. So we can see it kind of just changes the shadows in there. We might even want to add one more levels just to darken that. So sometimes this is just playing with it to see. We can always go back and adjust our, that's kind of cool, our matte effect that way. so we can customize it. All right, so we can see the change with that matte effect. Works pretty well overall. I'm just going to bring this down just a little bit more so we still have some contrast in there. That looks good. All right, one last thing we could do, maybe, let's try it, is the brightness. Bringing that up just a tiny bit, just pops that value just a little bit more. And let's try bringing the darks down on this one a little bit more too. All right, we've got our flipped image gradient map. We've got our contrast in there and our matte effect. You are going to save this as a JPEG.